You're absolutely sure time exists. You feel it pressing on you right now. Your phone battery is lower than it was a few minutes ago. Your body is slightly older than when you clicked this video. All of that feels undeniable. And that's exactly why I want to slow down. Because whenever something feels that obvious, there's usually a trap hidden inside it. Let me ask a dangerous question right away. When you say time, what exactly are you pointing at? Not a clock, not a calendar, not the feeling of boredom or urgency. I mean the thing itself, the actual substance, the thing that supposedly flows. Because the moment you try to point to it, your finger hits air. Now wait. That sounds like word games. It feels like cheating. Your intuition is already protesting. Of course, time exists. Things change. Causes come before effects. Yesterday happened before today. And you're right to feel that way. Your intuition is doing its job. But intuition is a tool built for survival, not for truth. Here's something uncomfortable. We don't experience time directly. We experience change. We experience motion. We experience memory being different from anticipation. And then, quietly, without noticing, we bundle all of that together and give it a single name, time. That move feels harmless. It feels efficient. But it hides an assumption so deep we almost never question it. We assume that time is a thing rather than a relationship. Think about this. If nothing changed, no motion, no decay, no thoughts, no blinking, no atoms vibrating, would time still be passing? Don't answer too fast. Your brain wants to say yes because it imagines a silent clock ticking in the background. But where did that clock come from? You smuggled it in. Imagine a universe frozen perfectly. Absolutely nothing changes. No particles move. No fields fluctuate. No observers think. In that universe, how would you tell the difference between 1 second and 1,000,000,000,000 years? You can't. Not because you lack instruments, but because there's nothing for time to do. That should bother you a little. We're used to thinking of time as a river. It flows. We float along helplessly. The past is upstream, the future downstream. It's a beautiful picture. Poetic, also possibly wrong, because rivers flow in time. So if time itself is flowing, what's it flowing in? Wait, that doesn't make sense. This is where people usually say, okay, fine, maybe the metaphor isn't perfect, but time is still real, and that's fair. Metaphors fail all the time, but physics doesn't care about how comforting a metaphor is. Physics asks a colder question. What shows up in the equations? Here's something strange. In many of the deepest equations we have, the ones that describe the universe at its most fundamental level, time doesn't behave like you expect. Sometimes it's just another dimension, like space. Sometimes it can be swapped around. Sometimes it disappears entirely. That should make you uneasy, because equations are where reality gets honest. Let's take a step back, though, before this turns abstract. Think about how you actually experience time. Not philosophically, practically. You remember the past. You don't remember the future. That feels like a property of time itself, like time has an arrow, a direction. But is that arrow out there in the universe? Or is it in your head? Consider memory. Memory is physical. It's stored in your brain. It requires energy. It requires change. You don't remember the future for the same reason you don't remember things that haven't been written down yet. There's nothing there to read. Now, here's the unsettling part. The laws of physics at the level of particles and forces don't care about past or future. They work almost perfectly the same, whether time runs forward or backward. Drop a ball, it falls, film it, play the film backward. The motion still obeys the same equations. Nothing in the math screams, this is the wrong direction. So where does the arrow come from? We usually blame entropy. Disorder increases. Eggs break, they don't unbreak. Smoke spreads, it doesn't reassemble into a cigarette. And yes, that's real, but notice what we just did. We explained the arrow of time using change again. We still haven't found time itself. We've only found patterns. Here's a quieter thought. When you say the past is fixed, what do you mean? Fixed compared to what? Compared to now. But now is just another moment you're standing inside of. You're always standing inside a now. There's no universal spotlight moving across the universe labeling moments as present. That idea feels obvious, but it's strangely absent from physics. In fact, different observers don't even agree on what now means. If you're moving fast enough, your present slices through the universe differently than mine. Events I think are simultaneous, you think are not. There is no single cosmic moment everyone shares. That's not philosophy. That's measured. That's tested. That's reality being deeply rude to your intuition. So if there's no universal now, what exactly is flowing? Pause there. Let that sink in. We talk as if the universe is updating itself frame by frame like a movie. But a movie needs a projector. Who's running the projector for reality? Another assumption slips in here. We imagine the universe as something that happens, but maybe it just is. Picture the entire history of the universe, not as a sequence, but as a whole. Every event, every configuration laid out together, not moving, not changing, just existing. That sounds static, dead, but only because your mind is trained to think in sequences. You're reading these words one after another, so of course you imagine reality that way. But the equations don't demand that. In some views, what you call the passage of time is just your consciousness tracing a path through a fixed structure. Like reading a book, the story doesn't flow. You do. That idea is unsettling because it messes with agency, with choice, with becoming, and your brain immediately pushes back. If the future already exists, what am I doing right now? Good question, but notice how quickly it assumes a future already means something temporal. Maybe already is the wrong word. Here's another crack in intuition. When physicists try to combine gravity with quantum mechanics, when they try to describe the universe at its deepest level, time often vanishes from the equations entirely. Not slowed down, not distorted, gone. Instead of things evolving in time, you get relationships between configurations. The universe described as correlations, not motion. It's like writing a recipe without using the word before. That doesn't mean clocks stop working. It means clocks might be emergent. Tools we invented because they're useful, not because they're fundamental. Think about temperature. Temperature feels real, hot, cold. But at a deep level, temperature isn't a thing. It's a summary, an average of particle motion. Useful, powerful, not fundamental. What if time is like that? What if time is what you get when you squint at change from far away? That thought should make you slightly uncomfortable because it suggests that the thing you feel most trapped by might not be built into reality the way you think. Now, don't misunderstand me. This isn't saying time is an illusion like a mirage. A mirage is false. Time works. You age. Deadlines matter. Miss a flight and the plane doesn't wait for you. But money works too, and money isn't fundamental. It's a system, a convention layered on top of physical reality. Time might be like that. Inescapable at your scale. Optional at the deepest one. Here's a paradox to chew on. If time doesn't exist fundamentally, how did the universe begin? Notice how loaded that question is. Begin already assumes time. It smuggles in a before. Maybe the universe didn't begin. Maybe beginning is just what it looks like when you trace certain paths through the structure. Like asking where a circle starts. Another quiet realization. We're always asking questions inside time about time. It's like trying to understand water while never leaving the ocean. So we invent stories that fit our intuition. Flow, passage, the march forward. But stories are not the same as structures. Here's something that still bothers physicists. If time is real in the way we feel it, why does it refuse to show up cleanly in our best theories? Why does it bend, slow, split, and disappear depending on how you look at it? Things that are fundamental don't behave that way. Space once felt obvious too, solid, absolute. Then we learned it bends. Then we learned it can stretch. Then we learned it might emerge from something deeper. Time might be next. And now we circle back to the title you came in with. Why time might not exist the way you think. Notice the phrase, the way you think. Not whether it exists, but how. Your intuition says time is the stage and everything else dances on it. Physics whispers something more disturbing. The stage might be built out of the dance. And if that's true, then the feeling of time passing, this pressure, this urgency, this sense of loss, might be less about the universe moving forward and more about how a mind like yours can exist at all, which leaves you with a final, slightly uncomfortable thought. Maybe time doesn't carry you forward. Maybe you're the one doing the moving.